Happy holidays, folks, and welcome back to December, the series on the channel where I explore the downfall and death of the DC Extended Universe by going through every single film in release order. I'll be uploading a video every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday between December 4th and December 28th, starting with Man of Steel and ending with the finale of the DCEU being Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom that releases on December 22nd, 2023. Now, with all that being said, kick back, relax, expect spoilers because today we're talking about, finally, a good movie! It's insane to me that it took Warner Brothers almost half a decade and 4 movies before they landed on one genuinely good film. Man of Steel is solid, but it's extremely divisive among fans, and I personally hate it. Batman v Superman is a dumpster fire, and Suicide Squad is a Frankenstein mess that, although it's the good kind of bad superhero movie, it's still bad. Wonder Woman is the first genuinely good film in the DCEU that, on a general consensus, is just like, yeah, that was pretty good. The only complaints I usually hear people talk about this movie is the ending, but we'll get to that later. I mean, Wonder Woman has just about everything that you could ask for. It's got a good story, great acting, good chemistry between the characters, cool action, and a banger theme. Now listen, I know the Wonder Woman theme nowadays is a huge meme, but come on, you know with just me mentioning the name, it's probably playing in your head right now. I don't even need to play it, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm gonna do it anyway, because the shit slaps. Alright, let me stop before Warner Brothers strangles me in my sleep. So Wonder Woman starts off after the events of Batman v Superman. Diana is heading back to her office to find that she received a package from Bruce Wayne, because if you remember, the two of them became friends at the end of Batman v Superman. So she opens the package to find that it's the picture we saw from LexCorp's files back in that movie of her standing next to a bunch of World War I soldiers. Bruce then tags it with saying, "I hope you tell me your story one day," and she begins to reminisce about what happened to her and the events leading up to and shortly after that photo was taken. So then we flash back to see a young Diana on Themyscira running away from her tutor so she can watch the Amazonians train. We can see that she's very fond of them and excited to see what they can do and very much wants to be like them. She continues escaping from her tutor once she catches up and ends up being captured by her mother, Queen Hippolyta, who brings her back to her room and then tucks her in for bed a little bit later and starts telling her the tale of how Themyscira, man's world, and all of the gods of Olympus were killed. We learned that Ares, the god of war, ended up influencing mankind to become evil, which resulted in him starting a war with all the gods of Olympus and ended up being mortally wounded after Zeus sacrificed himself. Now, it is the Amazons' job to one day hunt down Ares after he reveals himself to the world. And Diana is extremely excited about that. She wants to hunt him down because that's what she believes the Amazonians' mission is. But her mother wants her to be a scholar. She doesn't want her to fight for some unknown reason. And then after her mother leaves, she sneaks off to go train with her aunt, who has agreed to train her in secret because she believes that Diana needs to learn how to fight. It fast forwards a few years to when Diana's a teenager to the event of when her mother finds out she's been secretly training with her aunt. Queen Hippolyta and her sister, Diana's aunt, end up getting into a little bit of an argument, and then they have a vague conversation implying that Diana is more than just a normal Amazonian, Themysciran, whichever word you prefer to consider them by. And Queen Hippolyta agrees to allow Diana to train, but she has to be trained to become the best Amazon warrior in history. So then we fast forward one more time. Diana's an adult, and this is her final sparring match. Her mother's watching her to see her progress, and she accidentally taps into her hidden super abilities. She wasn't aware that she had them, and everyone seems a bit surprised that she was able to tap into them. And she runs off to go clear her head at a cliff, and that is when the movie really starts to pick up, and Steve Trevor crashes through the illusionary wall of Themyscira and lands into the bay of the island. Now, I will admit, this opening sequence does feel like it drags on a bit. It's all vital information that you need to know, showing us what Diana's powers are a little bit, giving us the mystery of who she really is, showcasing that her mother's afraid of her becoming a warrior, learning about the God Killer weapon and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know, after a certain point, it felt like it was dragging, and I was sitting there just like,
let's go already!
So, I was very happy when Steve finally crashed through the barrier because I knew the movie was going to start picking up after that. Steve, having now crashed in the Bay of Themyscira, is drowning because he's trapped inside of his plane. Diana dives into the water after him, rescues him, brings him to shore. However, unfortunately, Steve was not alone. He's being followed by a bunch of enemy German soldiers who land on the bay, hunting him down. The Amazonian army mobilizes and gets into a very cool fight against the German soldiers. We get to see really how adept Amazons are at fighting. They're way more acrobatic, a lot stronger, and faster than normal people are. However, this is the first time we see that their way of life might be outdated. Their technology has not evolved past like ancient Greece. So they're still using swords and shields and bows and arrows. And although they're more skilled than German soldiers, they cannot beat out guns. They win the fight overall, but some of them end up dying just because they don't have the same kind of firepower that the rest of the world does. So once this fight is resolved and Diana's aunt saves her from a stray bullet, she gives her a vague message telling her that she needs to leave Themyscira, and she tries to tell her something about the God Killer weapon, but she can't exactly get it out as the blood's filling her lungs and she starts to die. So Steve is now taken captive so they can learn who he is, what brought these people here, and all the information that's trapped in that little noggin of his. So they tie him up to the lasso of truth. He tries to fight back because he doesn't want to reveal the information that he has, given the fact that he is a British spy. He tells them what mission he was on. He tells them he tried to do the right thing by stealing a book that could help them end the war and save countless lives. And he starts to notice that things are very off here. These people don't seem to know what World War I is. They don't know who he is. Well, not him specifically, but more just like the organization that he's part of. They don't know the army that he's fighting for, the people that have died. Their technology is primitive. He's starting to get weirded out by everything that's here, but he's still trying to explain to them that it's a huge tragedy that's happened out in the world. They then throw Steve into a prison, not really a prison cell. They put him in like a weird cave with like glowing water, but that's besides the point. He can't leave. That's the main focus of what's going on here. Diana tries to communicate with her mother, saying that they need to go out into the world because this is the sign that they've been waiting for. Ares has returned and has caused a war that will destroy all of mankind, but her mother refuses to allow that to happen. She is still fearful of something that we don't personally know about Diana, and she will not reveal it to Diana or the audience for that matter. So Diana goes, she speaks with Steve in a very cute interaction. I really love the chemistry between Gal Gadot and Chris Pine. They really sell this like cute fish out of water kind of romance between Steve and Diana. It's a really nice and wholesome way to depict these two characters, especially since Wonder Woman doesn't really get to feel this way in the rest of the DCEU movies, just because in the future installments, she's been around in man's world for hundreds of years now, so she kind of knows how everything operates, and she doesn't feel the same way that she does here, where she's kind of like a newborn baby experiencing a ton of things for the first time, still holding true to her old values. She's able to fit into society a lot easier now in the later installments than she does here. So I really like seeing her in this one because I think this is probably the best performance that Gal Gadot gets to give throughout all of the movies that she's in the DCEU. But nevertheless, she has this cute interaction with Steve where he tries to make himself seem cooler than he actually is. She learns a bit about what's going on, and then she makes the decision that she's going to help him escape and go to man's world to find and kill Ares herself. So she steals the weapons from the Themysciran armory that are supposed to be used to take down Ares. She grabs the shield, the God Killer sword, the Wonder Woman armor set, which they don't really explain where this armor set came from. We get to see where the shield and the sword come from, but like I don't remember them talking much about the armor itself. It's just kind of there. So, I'm fine with that. I can shrug off like a little nitpick of her just having the Wonder Woman armor set just in Themyscira, and it's like a old museum piece or whatever it may be, and that's why she ends up stealing it. So her and Steve try to escape. They get caught at the exit to Themyscira, and her mother tells her that if she decides to leave, she can never return to the island. So Diana accepts the consequences. She stares at Themyscira one last time, being sad that she'll never get to see her mother, friends, and family ever again, and then her and Steve leave. There's a bit of a cute interaction between the two of them as they're exploring, heading towards London, showing the differences between how men act in man's world and how things operate on Themyscira. It allows them to get closer to each other in a very wholesome way. They finally arrive in London, and Diana's just raring to go. She's like, all right, where's the war happening at? I'm trying to kill Ares, let's go. And Steve's just like, listen, I got a mission to do, okay? So you need to chill out, all right? And just listen to me. I'll take you where you need to go. So let's get going to where I need to go first, and then I'll get you where you need to go. But Diana is clad in a bunch of armor and carrying a sword and a shield. She doesn't exactly fit in with London culture, so he takes her to go get some new clothes so she can blend into human society. And after that, we are introduced to his secretary, who's played by the same woman that plays the aunt from The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. I am very sorry that I don't know your name. I could look it up, but I'll just put it on the screen instead because I'm being too lazy. So now that Diana can blend into society, her and Steve start heading towards the War Council, but they get attacked by a bunch of German spies. And I really like this scene. So something that they do throughout the course of the entire film is that every fight is centered around something needing to be saved or protected, with the exception of like the last two fights of the movie, because every fight in this film, Diana is either sparring with someone, so the intention isn't to kill them, or when she does have to fight someone that she can beat, she's usually overpowering them, so they focus what she needs to get done on something completely different than just winning the fight. So in this first fight here, Diana, although she could take these guys out super easy, the point is that she has to protect Steve because he's just a normal fleshy human man that'll die from being shot with a bullet, which makes the fight way more interesting. It also has some pretty cool directing and choreography. I really like what's going on here. Like, this looks really cool. So Diana fights off all these guys, she defeats them, and everything's all cool, and they end up going to the War Council. They arrive there, and I really like this scene where Diana first enters the War Council room, and you see that Professor Lupin, yes, I'm calling him Professor Lupin. I don't remember what his name is in this movie, but I will always remember him as Professor Lupin from Harry Potter. So that's just who he is. He's just a Lupin. So Lupin reacts in a weird way when Diana first walks in, which if you have seen Wonder Woman, you know that at the end of the movie, it's revealed that Lupin ends up being Ares. So this reaction is a little fun allusion to the fact that he knows that Diana is his sister, and he's like, oh, snap, that's sis right there. That's crazy. So the war meeting is then brought to a close, and then Steve tries to give the book of Dr. Poison, the German scientist who's creating like this super toxic poison. She very much looks like an evil comic book character. I don't really know much about her because I haven't read Wonder Woman comics myself. I've only really seen her through animated movies and animated TV shows. So I don't know who Dr. Poison is in correspondence to DC Comics, but she looks like a supervillain. I mean, come on, look at this face and tell me you wouldn't think that this is some kind of supervillain. All right, don't lie to me. I'm looking at you watching the video. I'm looking at you. Don't lie to me. So Steve and Diana go into the general's meeting. They hand them over the book of the plans to create this new poison, but they can't figure out what it says. And then I like the fact that Diana is able to translate everything for them, because there was a fun little moment earlier on in the movie where Diana mentions that Themyscirans know basically every language on Earth, which I think is pretty cool. So Diana translates everything, and the men in the room are just trying to dismiss her because, well, this takes place during World War I, and women weren't nearly as respected as they are today as they were back then. So she constantly one-ups these people that are supposed to be like the higher echelon of society, that are supposed to know what the best choice and actions are supposed to be, just by being unapologetically nice and herself. So she translates everything for them, and then I love scenes like this. So after Diana translates what's in the book, the lead general decides, yeah, we're just gonna let these soldiers die so we can sign the peace treaty. And Diana's immediate reaction is,
not with you. You would knowingly sacrifice all those lives as if they mean less than yours, as if they mean nothing. I come from generals don't hide in their offices like cowards.
That's enough.
They fight alongside their soldiers. They die with them on the battlefield.
That's enough.
All of you should be ashamed.
and I love stuff like that. I love scenes where it can only happen because it's this specific hero. You wouldn't have this scene if like Batman was here or something like that, because they have different ideals, different ways of doing things. But Diana, Wonder Woman, is someone that's just very upfront. She is straightforward and to the point with everything that she does. So hearing that someone's going to let millions of innocent people die, she was just like, nah, screw that. We're not doing that. What's wrong with you? And I like the fact that Steve, being this underhanded spy, completely contrasting Diana's character, has to like pull her to the side, and she's like really angry and upset with him. And at least this is a very cute interaction.
We are going anyway.
You mean you were lying?
I'm a spy. That's what I do.
I love Gal Gadot's reaction and Chris Pine's delivery on this line. It's absolutely hilarious. Now, after everything that's happened in the war room, Diana and Steve have a plan. They know that Dr. Poison is creating a new poison that will go through gas masks and kill tons and tons of people, so they plan on finding out where she is, where their general is, and stopping them before the armistice is signed in a couple of days. So Steve and Diana need to assemble a team of people that can help them traverse the battlefield so that they can reach where they need to get to. So they go out and meet some of Steve's old war buddies. We meet Sammy, who is a silver-tongued devil that wishes he could be an actor. I love this interaction between him and Diana where they go back and forth on how many languages they can speak until Diana eventually one-ups him because, again, she knows every language in existence.
Oh, you're done.
We see Charlie. I like how Diana is confused and thinks that Charlie is the guy who can throw hands, but really he's the drunkard getting beat the hell out of. And then later on in the movie, we meet Chief once they finally arrive near the battlefield because he's their tracker that guides them through what they need to explore. Now the whole team is assembled and they decide to head out to the front lines, which is where Diana has wanted to go this entire time because she believes that Ares would be at the location where the most fighting is happening. So we see a little bit more cute scenes and get some character interactions between Diana and Steve and his team building up their relationship. There's this nice wholesome moment where Diana eats ice cream for the first time and she's having this like very lovable childlike reaction to eating something sweet and delicious, which is then juxtaposed by her seeing the horrors of war from man fighting in the first ever world war. And just before they reach the front lines, they have to make camp for the night, in which Diana gets to talk to Steve and the rest of the crew. She sees that Charlie has PTSD and tries to comfort him, but he wasn't really up for it at the moment. She talks to Chief and learns that Chief's people lost his land to Steve's people, referring to the Native Americans losing their land to the British. But she also sees the horrors in all this happening, while at the same time seeing a bit of the beauty of it, because despite the fact that technically Chief and Steve should hate each other because of what happened in their past, they don't. The two of them coexist with each other friendly. Now, after having this nice little campfire moment, we get to the most iconic scene from Wonder Woman. They arrive at the front lines and Diana sees this horrible battle happening, and she's constantly telling Steve that they need to help, they need to save people, that the village overway is being taken apart and people are taking hostage. She's like, we have to do something. And Steve's like, this war front right here has been like this for like a year. No one's been able to gain an inch. People just keep shooting at each other. There's nothing that can be done here. It's just a death trap. You cannot do anything about this. And then she's just like, well, nah, fuck that. I came here to help people, and if you won't help me, I'll just do it myself. And, you know, like I said, most iconic scene in Wonder Woman. Everyone knows this scene where Diana travels across the trenches, parrying every bullet that's fired at her, blocking it with the shield, tearing apart the enemy soldiers on the other side, and then charging into the village to save it. This is just a phenomenal scene, and it does the one thing that I love that I really need superhero movies to like nail nowadays, because a lot of superhero movies, mainly referring to the MCU, they focus more on like the super aspect of everything, but the whole point of a superhero is that they're heroes. They save people. They save innocent people. That's what they do. A lot of superhero movies just focus on like the grandiose plot at hand rather than their day-to-day lives of saving people. But this really showcases Diana being a superhero, using her abilities to help and save individuals that need their help. That's why the scene following this battle where they're in the village and everyone's happy and just grateful that Diana saved them is just wonderful. That makes that picture that we saw in BVS so much more meaningful, because it isn't just a photo of like, hey, we should take a photo to commemorate our journey together. No, they saved this village, and this man took this picture to commemorate the fact that these warriors, these heroes, saved their lives. It makes this photo have so much more meaning, and I absolutely love it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's go back to the battle. So Diana charges across the trenches. She's defeating the soldiers, breaking the machine guns, and she charges into the village. There's some really cool action here. I like how they use slow-mo in this. This movie has a really great effect with Diana's... This movie has really great impact of all of Diana's attacks and what hits her, showcasing that she is super strong. I feel like that's a bit of an issue that a lot of superhero movies have, is that you have lots of characters that have super strength or like suits that enhance their physical traits, but you never really feel that they're strong because they're either fighting things that aren't human or they're fighting other people with the same powers. But Diana's fighting normal humans, and she's vastly stronger than all of them, so you see her taking them all down with like these crashing hits, and everything that hits her just like bounces off her like it's nothing, and it's shown in a really impactful way that I absolutely love. Most of the time slow-mo is kind of used in like a okay, you're using slow-mo, whatever, I'm kind of tired of this kind of thing, but I think it works really here. I think it works really well here to showcase how much stronger Diana is from everything else that she's fighting. And then I love the culmination of the end of this fight, because something that's really good about ensemble movies is seeing all of the characters interacting using their knowledge against each other. So Steve, having been on Themyscira earlier, saw how some of the Amazonians fought, and he noticed that one of the tactics they used was the shield throw thing here. So while they're being pinned down by a sniper, because Charlie, due to his PTSD, wasn't able to shoot down the sniper that's hiding out in the church, Steve sees this scrap metal on the ground and remembers what the Amazonians used as a combat technique. So Steve and the rest of his crew go up and they pick up this piece of metal, and he yells at Diana, "Shield." She immediately knows what he's talking about, runs up, lunges off of the shield into the church, defeating the sniper, saving the village. I love this whole set piece. It is phenomenal. Now that the battle's over, everything's calmed down. The whole crew is chilling out at a party that the villagers are having. Steve and Diana get to grow closer together. We see Diana's reaction to seeing snow for the first time, and Steve is genuinely surprised because Charlie has calmed down enough that he started singing. He's enjoying himself again, and it's because of Diana. She's inspiring him to heal and become better, and I really like seeing that her influence is affecting people in a positive way. And then the night ends with Steve and Diana sharing their first night together, and it's a very sweet, wholesome moment. I really like the dynamic between Chris Pine and Gal Gadot, as I've said earlier. The two of them just really play off each other very well, and it showcases truly how much Diana and Steve loved each other, despite the fact that they were only together for a very short amount of time. So now, they continue their journey, and they find out that there is a gala happening for the armistice where the people they're looking for are going to be at. Dr. Poison, as well as General Ludendorff, who Diana believes is Ares. She believes that Ludendorff is the kind of man that fits the description of Ares, an individual who's trying to keep the war going, that is pure evil and wants nothing more than the destruction of mankind. She views him as everything that she expects Ares to be, and has convinced herself that Ludendorff is Ares. Something I don't particularly care for with this movie is that Ludendorff being Ares is supposed to be kind of a red herring moment for the series when you learn that he's not Ares, it was actually Lupin. But the movie blatantly shows you he's not Ares because Dr. Poison gives him like this super soldier like dust that makes him strong. So obviously he's not a god. If he's juicing on scientific formula to become stronger, he's clearly not a god. And I could see the argument that, well, they said Ares was mortally wounded with the Battle of Zeus thousands of years ago, so it's a potential that he needs to take this stuff just to get a fraction of what his old power was back. I could see that argument, but I don't know. I never really thought that that was the case. I think they just showed their hand too early. I think it would have been more interesting if we didn't know he was taking these pills, because he like cracks a pill and then the aerosol comes out, whatever. But I think it would have been more interesting if we didn't know he was taking this stuff, and then we just saw that he had superhuman strength to kind of elude us into believing the same thing that Diana believes, that he is Ares. But nevertheless, Steve and the crew end up going to this gala. They don't want to let Diana in because she'll just immediately kill Ludendorff, but she runs off on her own and follows Steve inside. I really like this scene here where Diana sizes up this woman that's going into the gala to rob her. It's absolutely hilarious. It's really good visual comedy here. So they all go inside. Steve is trying to schmooze up Dr. Poison, but he ends up failing because he notices Diana and he has to stop her from killing Ludendorff. So he stops her from doing so, and then he escorts her out of the building so that they don't ruin the armistice. But in doing so, this resulted in the village that they saved earlier being destroyed. You see, Ludendorff was going to test Dr. Poison's poison for the first time, and he fires it at the village that Diana, Steve, and everyone saved the night before. So Diana rushes back to the village to see if she can save anyone, but it's too late. They've all died from the new poison that's been fired out, running away, trying to escape and save themselves. We don't see any of them trying to escape because when Diana arrives there, everyone's already dead, but you can see the people in the streets having collapsed from the gas that was fired off and having dropped all of their belongings, just trying to escape. And it's a really heart-wrenching scene. You know, Diana gets upset and her and Steve kind of have this fracture between them because she believes if he hadn't stopped her, she would have been able to kill that man and save all of these people, and that this has ruined everything. So she heads off to face off against Ludendorff by going to the German camp to kill him, who she believes is currently Ares, and Steve and the rest of the gang chase after her so that she isn't storming into a battlefront all by herself. Now, this happens at like the very end of the movie, like we're in the last like 30 to 40 minutes or so of the film. It feels kind of weird that like the divide between the hero and their partner, love interest, however you view it, happens so late in the film because we don't really get to feel the tension of the two of them separating because we're now in the final battle. They have to get back together within this battle for the movie to end. So it's not as impactful as if it happened like in the middle of the movie and they had to reconvene by the third act to like finish off the story, because it happens at like the start of the third act. So it feels a bit off, but I think the movie manages to make it work well enough with the limited time it has left. So Diana arrives at the general's base and she goes to confront Ludendorff. The two of them get into a fight. He juices on his serum. Despite him using this to get stronger, he still is no match for Diana and she ends up killing him. But she then notices that nothing stopped. The war's still going. People are still packing up their weapons and poison, and she's baffled at the fact that everything is still going on. She thought that killing Ares would free everyone from this aggression, that they wouldn't want to fight anymore. And then Steve arrives and he breaks her the reality, which is more the moral of the story, that humans don't operate in this black and white facet. They operate in shades of gray. Every human has the capacity for good and evil in them, and they just have to fight for the good to win. That's just how the world works. This war isn't happening because there's one evil bad guy causing everything to happen. It's just what humans are like in general. And Diana can't accept that, and she kind of loses the will to fight, and Steve leaves. And as I was mentioning earlier, with like this fracture between them seeming like it happens too late, this is a prime example of that. Diana loses her faith in fighting in this moment, and then Ares immediately shows up like not even 5 minutes later and is like, ahaha, I have been influencing people to create weapons that they can use against themselves. And then she regains her momentum to fight, and then the final battle starts. Like, this happens way too fast because it felt like someone was writing the script and then like someone came over their shoulders like, hey yo, this movie can only be like 2 hours and change. And they were like, fuck, all right, loses will to fight, but then bad guy shows up, so now she can fight again. All right, cool, let's keep it going. So, you know, it feels like that. It's extremely rushed, but I think it manages it very well. It's a minor nitpick given how solid the rest of the film was. But also, I do find this one editing mistake very funny. Diana stabbed Ludendorff on top of the building that they're on, and when Ares shows up, she doesn't have her sword. She reaches back to grab it, and it's like this impactful moment where it's like, Diana doesn't have the god-killing weapon, so she can't fight Ares because she left it on top of the building. But then the next scene, she just has it. So I'm just imagining this awkward moment where Diana just realizes she doesn't have the sword, and mid-conversation with Ares just jumps onto the building, unsheaths it, and then hops back down for the scene to continue from where we picked up. That's just my personal headcanon. I find it very funny. But we're now in the final confrontation. Steve and the gang are trying to stop Dr. Poison from being loaded up into the ship and taken to London. They're going to drop those poisonous bombs on London, destroying the entire city. And Diana is now fighting Professor Lupin, who has revealed himself to be her brother, Ares, the god of war. Or, actually, Ares, the god of truth, because Diana and him have a bit of a conversation prior to their fight starting, where she ties him up with the lasso of truth, and he shows her his memories via the lasso, showing that he isn't exactly the monster that she thinks he is. He's just someone that didn't believe humanity was worthy of the gods' help and gave them a little bit of a push in the right direction to fight. He dictates the same thing that Steve basically told her, that he isn't a god of war, he's just a god of truths. He just tells them what they want to hear, and then they're allowed to do with that information whatever they see fit. He'll influence someone to create something deadly, but he doesn't force them to do it. Humans just decide to kill each other on their own. And this results in the third act battle happening. So Diana is trying to fight off against Lupin, but he's too strong. He's more skilled than she is in all of the godly abilities that she doesn't really know how to control or utilize at this moment, and she's kind of losing this fight. And while this is going on, they realize that all the bombs and poison that were loaded up into the aircraft are set on a timer to crash into London. So even if they get the plane away from London, it's still going to detonate regardless. So Steve decides to sacrifice himself by flying the plane up into the upper atmosphere, so when it blows up, none of the poison will reach out and kill any of the innocent people that are down below or destroy any of the ecosystem that's on the ground. But before he runs off and gets into the plane, he's able to talk to Diana for a brief moment, who can hardly hear him after being hit with an explosive by Ares. Her ears are ringing, and Steve is trying to have a heartfelt conversation with her and tell her exactly how he feels. He gives her his watch that the two of them spoke about earlier that his father had gave to him, and he runs off to get onto the plane. So Diana is now struggling against Ares. She gets captured, and then she looks up into the sky, and Steve sacrifices himself by blowing up the plane to save everyone. This inspires her and gives her, filled with godly rage, kind of like Kratos, and she taps into her full potential and is able to one-up Ares, taking the lightning that he shoots at her, which, like, by the way, it's revealed that Diana is the daughter of Zeus, the god of lightning. And I know you're also a child of Zeus, but like, did you really think it was a good idea throwing lightning at a person whose lineage can control lightning? Like, that just seemed like a bad move. Like, all these unlimited blade work swords you were throwing at her, that makes sense. You know, you're throwing weapons at her, that's fine. Explosives, that works. But like, did you really think it was a good idea shooting a lightning bolt at the daughter of the god of lightning? That just seems like a bad move on my part. But that's just me though. You know, I'm not a god. I can't decide what's best to kill a god. So Diana repurposes the lightning and shoots it back at him at like 2 times, 10 times, however much power more this is than what he shot at her, and it kills him instantly, and she's defeated Ares. Now, this right here is the only part of the movie that people really criticize that I've heard about, is that after Diana kills Ares, it feels like everything just stops. Because after Ares dies, the German soldiers that were fighting against Diana and all of the squad, they just stop fighting. Like, they lose their will to fight, and like they all like hug it out, and they're like, I'm sorry, you know, I tried to kill you, bro, like let's be friends now. And it's like, that's the only part of this I don't particularly like. I'd be fine if they surrendered because they realize they can't beat Diana, but the fact that they all just stop fighting and hug it out with their enemies just feels really weird, as if like the movie was trying to say, oh, well, Ares was lying. He was the reason that they were all fighting each other, showcased here by now they're all peaceful. And then the following day, the armistice was signed and World War I ended. It kind of leaves the impression that he was in control of war, and now that he's gone, war has stopped, but that's clearly not the case, and it kind of is the antithesis of the moral of the story. But, you know, it's more of a nitpick, and like, if you take this one scene out or like tweak it slightly, everything just works out in a better way, in my opinion. So Diana finishes reminiscing about everything that happened. We flash back to the present. She sends Bruce a message back saying thank you for returning Steve to her, and then she senses danger and she suits up in her Wonder Woman outfit and she jumps off into the sky to head to go and stop whatever crime or bad guy is out there. And that's Wonder Woman. Honestly, really solid, really good film. I really enjoyed rewatching this. It was a ton of fun, and I was actually kind of surprised at how little they used the Wonder Woman theme in this movie, just because I hear that theme so much. Like I said earlier, it's a massive meme now. I hear it all the time, and it just kind of tricked me into thinking they use it an excessive amount in her movies, but like at least in this one they don't. I can only really remember it used like once or twice throughout the entire film. So I don't know. Wonder Woman, good movie. I'm very happy because I had to slog through 3 shit movies this first week to go through this franchise. So yeah, I'm very happy. Wonder Woman, good film, good action, great story. I'm happy. Zack Snyder, Patty Jenkins, you guys did a great job in this movie. So yeah, that's really all I gotta say about Wonder Woman. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, subscribe, comment, let me know what you thought. I hope you guys are having a great, wonderful day this holiday season, and I hope you tune in for the next installment. So, with that being said, I am the Innocent Villain. Remember, folks, you're innocent until proven villainous, and I'll catch you next time.